Good morning, everybody online. Thanks so much for being here with us today. I got Nate with me. We're here live. Are you guys ready to jump in and learn how to dominate any real estate market? Go ahead and love to see who's online. So put where you're at in the chat. Let us know where you're from, what state, what market you're in. We'd love to hear and see that from you guys. You ready to jump in, Nate?
Yeah, let's just give it a few minutes, maybe as people are logging in, and we'll get going. We're pretty excited. When did we write this book, Sarah?
It came out in August of 2021.
2021.
So we're rolling up on 2 years, actually. 2-year anniversary. We should do something.
Cool. Well, what happened in the first, when the book came out? What happened? Did we get any accolades for writing the book?
We became an international bestseller in the first day it hit the market. So
cool.
Pretty exciting, huh?
So we sold like one book.
We sold a couple in the UK, Canada, I think Australia. Yeah. So that was pretty exciting to see our book go out there into other markets. So pretty cool. We should translate it too, you know?
We should.
We should.
I think if we did audio,
that'd be good. That would be a lot of fun. So it's 9:01. Alex, how are we doing with people online? We got people showing up?
It's like, yeah.
Okay.
So, California, Burbank's in the house.
I don't see the chat.
Hit the comments.
Oh, comments. There we go. Okay. Good morning.
Okay. Well, we have people here. I guess we should start. Let's go ahead and start, Sarah.
Okay, great.
Okay. A little bit about me. Sarah and I both came from humble beginnings, and I just want to share the story where I come from. This is the house that my mother raised me in. She bought that house in 1959 for like $9,000 brand new. It's funny how times have changed. Yeah, I think $9,500. So, but that's what homes cost back then, and it just shows you that buying real estate is a good investment. But I grew up in the inner city of West Phoenix. As a young kid, I knew that it was going to be up to me because we were living, paycheck to paycheck, and so I knew I had to bring in money to the household. So I started off as a paper boy. I cut grass, and as soon as I was old enough to have a legal job, I worked at the local grocery store and worked there for many years. But some of the things that I realized when I was growing up in the neighborhood, I had no father, I had no mentor, I had nobody to kind of teach me what to do. So my mentor were the streets. And unfortunately, in high school, I knew 3 people that were murdered, for drugs or gangs or whatever it might be. But that was my reality. And it was the day I turned 17, I moved out of the neighborhood and I got my first apartment as I was going to junior college. All that said, I was lucky enough later on, about 5 years later, to meet a gentleman that, was dating my sister-in-law at the time. But he rolled up in a brand new Z28, Jordache jeans, ostrich skin boots, and a matching belt. And I thought, he's a little different than my friends, right? And he told me what he did. And he said he was a real estate agent. And it was like August. And at that time, I was pouring concrete, in the hot Arizona sun for a living. And Cam told me that he had earned about $86,000. And it was like the beginning of August. And I'm thinking, again, this is 1986, guys, so it's a long time ago. I was probably earning about $30,000, $34,000 a year as a concrete laborer, busted my butt, and this guy's driving around in a cool car. So I immediately went to the newspaper, found a real estate company that would pay for me to go to school and get my license, and that's what I did. So 36 years later, we're talking to you today.
Awesome. I love that story, Nate. So literally coming from throwing newspapers to being a real estate pioneer, which I've said often about you, that you forged the way for a lot of people, which is your innovation, your ideas. So I met Nate in December of 1997. I had gotten my license. I was working for a boutique company, learned all of the back end, doing broker type stuff, and got my license and decided to leave there. And I wanted to get divorced. I was very young. I wanted to get divorced, but I literally, when I say I don't have a window to throw anything out of, he owned the house, the car. I had a credit card, a Citibank credit card for about $3,000. And I had gone up against Nate in a listing appointment couple weeks prior, so I knew who he was. His signs were everywhere, and I remember looking at his marketing stuff that he had left behind on this listing appointment. I thought, I'd list my house with this guy, I wouldn't list it with me. And so knowing that I wanted to get divorced, I thought I wanted a job that had, paycheck, right? And I called the RE/MAX office up the street and I asked if they were hiring for any TCs, because I had TC experience. And the owner at the time said, no, we're not, but Nate's always looking for buyer's agents. And so I came in. Probably, if you've read the book, you read about my red wool dress that I had. It was the only fancy thing I owned. Wool in Arizona, so impractical, but it was red with these gold buttons and big shoulder pads. And I remember walking in, I was super nervous, and Nate came in and he said to me, "Are you hungry?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, you have no idea just how hungry I am. And he handed me a book. It's called 30 Days to Success. I still have it to this day. And he said, go do everything that's in this book. Trust me, just go do everything that's in this book. Oh, thank you. Go do everything that's in this book. And so this is actually a picture of me or my parents in a mobile home that we lived in. And to say we were humble, meager upbringing is definitely the case. We were very poor. So I took the job with Nate, even though, I had to pay money to be on the team and be there, which seemed a little odd, right? But I didn't look back. I was the first one in the office every day and the last one to leave, and missed being rookie of the year, but just a couple transactions, and I actually did outproduce Nate's best buyer's agent my first year. So, and then later on, here we are. So 25 years, right? 26, something like that. Yeah. So it's been a long time. So I'm grateful to be here. This industry to me is the best. Next to being a rock star, there's no better job that we get to do. And a couple years ago, we started giving this presentation, to share with agents in our industry that these are the things that if you just do these steps, these type of activities, you can survive any kind of market. Nate and I went from traditional market. I remember us going on a listing appointment, and Ralph and I forget the wife's name, Olga. We went and they wanted this crazy price for the house. It was about 2003, 2004, something like that. And we walked away from the listings. We're like, there's no way you could get that price. And they ended up listing it with another agent. And I remember you and I thinking, like, we got to change our strategy. Something's happening in our market. So we went from this crazy market with the Californians coming in bus loads, remember that, writing offers on tablets, and then the bank loan market. So we weathered that. So we went from investors to short sales, REOs. So we've been through every type of market. And so the idea behind writing this book is that how do you survive in those different types of markets? And so that's what we're going to unpack today. I'd like to know if any of you have actually read the book. Put it in the chat for us. Let us know if you actually read the book, just so we know. And if you haven't, there'll be a slide that you guys can pick up a copy of the book as well. So you got anything else you want to add?
Interesting. Back in the REO days, our biggest year, we sold 680 properties.
679.
79. Okay. So anyway, bottom line is there were days, and Sarah will probably correct me on this next number, but it was not uncommon to have 30 to 40 offers. And again, this was back in 2008, right? So when this last market came, when the market exploded with multiple offers, it was different, right? We weren't really expecting it. Somewhat in the REO market, when you have we're selling houses that were probably $50,000 or less.
15,000, we sold one.
And so we basically knew that we would get multiple offers in those days, and the bank would make you keep the house on the market for a week just to make sure we got all the offers out there. When the market shifted a couple of years ago, I think it hit us all by surprise, especially the Phoenix market. Houses were I'm not saying they were doubling, but they were going up quite a bit. And I think in about 18 months, we had a 38% increase in the average sales price. So it wasn't uncommon for people to come in $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 above list price in the upper tier, and $50,000 to $100,000 in the lower tier, and just an amazing market. So it's been fun, and 36 years of ups and downs. And writing this book wasn't really to have people survive. It's really how to dominate a market and really thrive in any real estate market at any time.
Yeah, whether it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, a bank-owned market, these are all extra, concepts that we've learned from our experience. And between the two of us, we got over 50 years, close to probably 60 years of experience. And just, we want to pour that back into you guys and share that stuff at a deeper level with you. So with that being said, I am going to move on to the next slide. All right. So what's your blue dot? And so we think about goals and having a vision. And so your blue dot, Nate's going to tell a great story about the blue dot, but you got to get really clear about what it is that you want to accomplish. So if you were to think it's December 31st, what do I want my business to look like? What do I want my life to look like? Because we can get very one-dimensional as realtors because it can become very consuming, right, to be in this industry. So you also have to think about your family, your retirement, your legacy. What is the things that you want at the end of your life? What do you want to be known for? So Nate, you want to talk about your blue dot story for us?
Yeah. So I had the pleasure 33 years ago going to Las Vegas to attend the first CRS celebration. And, I was a fairly new agent at the time, had a few years under my belt. And when I got there, all the speakers that were on stage were all selling over 100 homes a year. And I had not heard anybody in Phoenix at that time. This was about 1990, 1991, something like that, that had sold that many homes. And it was mind-blowing, right? It was a new paradigm. So my record was scratched, so to speak. But what the MC said was, if you see anybody wearing a blue dot on their badge, go up and buy them a cup of coffee and get to know them. What was interesting, if people had a blue dot, people would follow them into the restroom, asking them questions. It was kind of crazy, but they were like true rock stars, right? And what I took out of that conference was, hey, they're just like me, just, in a different market or what have you. So I made it my goal to earn a blue dot by the next convention 12 months later. Funny story is I got to the registration desk and I got my packet and I'm rifling through it. The only thing I really cared about was my blue dot. And I told the lady, I go, hey, my blue dot's not here. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, no, you get a blue dot if you sold over 100 homes. I sold over 100 homes. A big accomplishment for me. That was my goal, to wear my blue dot. And she asked around, they said, oh, they don't do that anymore. So, Greg, there he is.
Hey, Greg, good to see you, my friend. You did finally get your blue dot, though, at the RE/MAX convention this last year.
I did. One of our agents, Mountie West, we were sitting in the front row, and he came up. He goes, hey, I got something for you. He pulls out his wallet, and there's a blue dot. He puts it on my badge. But he read the book. But, one thing about real estate and this amazing career is amazing people that you meet along the way. Like I see Craig Godge just popped in from the Seattle area, and we met at a Mike Ferry seminar probably 30 years ago.
Probably.
One thing I could tell you is we've never stopped learning. We continue to go to conferences, and it's just a fun experience. But that's what kind of gave me my first vision to really achieve a goal that was set out, so.
Well, it was your Roger Bannister moment, right?
Yep.
Up until that point, no one, we base our goals on what we've done in the past. And sometimes, you had a paradigm shift for you that, hey, if they can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll talk more about how you did that. But, I think it's important that when we think about our goals, that dare to say, why not you? Why not you think bigger? We were going to talk about Howard Brinton, but Howard Brinton would say, if your goal is to sell 100 homes, cross through it and double it, right? So shifting your paradigm to think that if someone else can do it, so can you. And then what else can you do? What else are you capable of? I love the acronym BHAG for your goals, and BHAG stands for big, hairy, audacious goals. And I love that because, please put the name of the book in the chat. Hey, Alex, can you take care of that for me? Maybe drop a link for Amazon as well.
It's also right there. It says 8 ways to dominate any real estate market on the slide.
Yep, that's the name of the book, and you can find it on Amazon. So getting really clear, what is it that you want in your life? And then write it down. And we want to talk about the journal. In the journal, we have a companion book that we wrote, a journal that goes along with the book. It's called, what is it called? Your real estate journey to abundance. So basically in there is a place for you to write down your BHAGs for the eight areas of life. So hi, Janice and Ed. Those are some of my coaching clients. I love them. So your 8 areas of life. So you have your personal, your finances, your family, your fitness, all of those things that you want to get really clear about. What are those goals that you have in life? And you'd be surprised once you write them down, how they come to life. So
yeah, and if you don't focus on the other important things and you just focus on real estate, the rest of those pillars, if you will crumble, right? Your marriage can go away, your health, your weight, all those things. If you're just focused on just one goal, you have to open it up and have a complete, what we call circle.
Absolutely. The wheel of life. Absolutely. All right, so step 2. So I love this quote, and I came across this actually in another one of my favorite books. I worked for menial hire only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life would have paid. And so when we think about that again, I find it fascinating when I meet new agents or I start coaching somebody new and they have a really unhealthy relationship with money. And so, challenge yourself to think about what are your money mantras. And so I grew up poor. And so my mother used to say that money was hard, that she had to learn lessons through her pocketbook, we're not the Rockefellers. So I learned that, that money was hard. And so when I finally decided that those were her beliefs and started to adapt my own, that I live in a world of abundance, right? That money comes to me easily and frequently, my finances started to shift. And so when we think about that, life will give you whatever you want if you dare to ask for it and you dare to go for it, right? To show up and take the actions. And so having a written business plan. So knowing, when I first got into business, it was like, okay, figure out how many houses you need to sell in order to pay your bills. Well, now we want to take that step further, right? Not only do we need to know how many houses we need to sell, but how many appointments do you need to go on every week? How many face-to-face appointments do you need to have? And tracking that, we're going to talk more about tracking, but really getting very deep with it. And then also looking at, when is your peak? Is your peak in the spring market? Is your peak in the summer? Here in Phoenix, July is not a great month because everyone's on vacation. If they're melting, they don't want to think about moving. So looking at your MLS and going even deeper with that. When are you at your peak? Because that's not the time you're going to want to take vacation. And being consistent. We see so many times that realtors have these peaks and valleys in their business, right? Because they get busy in January prospecting, then they transact, then they come back down here and go, I need some more business. And so having a business plan that you work consistently, and then also a budget. Now, I know the word budget is kind of gives us all a little bit of a twitch because we don't like to think about budgeting. So I actually like to call it a spending plan because I don't know about you, but I like to spend the money that I make. I have expensive tastes, so does Nate. And so we want to be able to build that in. I was coaching a gal a couple years ago that she liked to buy clothes and jewelry and purses, and it was constantly a fight with her and her husband. And so I said, why don't we just put it in your budget? How much do you spend every month? And she gave me a number. So let's just put it in the budget. And so it stopped the fight because now she had permission to spend the money. He knew she was going to spend the money. And on the months that she didn't spend the money, he was happy. And so we want to just be sure to put those things in there. So you like sporting events, Nate. So it's in your budget, right? To buy season tickets. It's just a part of your life. And so having a plan that allows you to make the money, but then also allocate it. And you got to think about retirement. You definitely have to think about your taxes and making sure that you're being a good steward of your money. But having a plan, write it down and then get super specific with it. And again, inside the journal, we've got a place for you to do all of that. It goes very specific, and everything in this journal is designed for a realtor. So the budget's designed for a realtor, the business plan's designed for a realtor. So we really took that into consideration. What is it that you guys as an industry need? Yeah.
One of the most important things that I learned early on in my career was having a budget. I didn't have a budget, right? So I focused on several things. I'm a very goal-oriented person, so I wanted to be the number one RE/MAX agent in the Southwest. So I did everything I could to do that. Well, once I achieved that award and got the plaque, that was great, but my life was in shambles, right? My family, my marriage was breaking up. I owe the IRS money because I forgot to budget for the IRS, right? I just thought I could continue making more than I could spend. But once you get to that point where the IRS knocks on your door, they never knocked on my door, but I needed to pay them, so I had to put myself on a budget, right? I had to end up incorporating and making myself an employee to try to live off my means. And you do that at a certain point of your real estate career for tax reasons and tax strategies and how to pay yourself. But I'll tell you what, once I learned about budgeting money, once I learned about putting away Uncle Sam's money first, I never have the pressure. And every quarter when I write a big fat check to the government, it doesn't really even faze me. And I look at that. I sometimes pay quarterly. Well, I know I do. I pay quarterly taxes more than I earned in my best job before real estate, and that was an annual wage versus a quarterly tax contribution. So I definitely do my part for our country and helping keep the lights on at the White House. So.
Yeah, the word levy your bank account, that's a real thing that the IRS will do. So, because I too, first 3 years, owed the IRS 50 grand, and that was a big hole to get out of. So, but in my defense, I was making more money than a girl like me ever thought I would. So, but no more. One tip: if you're new, go get an S corp set up. If you're not new, go get an S corp set up. It's a huge benefit and tax savings, and will stop that roller coaster of owing these giant bills.
Yeah, and get tax advice on that.
Yes, absolutely. Get a good CPA. All right, let's move on to step 3. So some of you have probably heard of this, especially if you're a Workman coaching client. You've heard of the My Perfect Week. And so when we were writing this book, I'm a big fan of the DISC personality styles. And so knowing that a lot of us, myself included, struggle with being a perfectionist, that there is nothing that's ever perfect. Something can always be made better. And if you're a high C, you know that, right? So having the word perfect to me is a big impediment in implementing this tool that is a game changer. And so when we wrote the book, we decided to call it the Intentional Week, because if you intend to do something, there's a lot more meat behind that. And again, I'm intending, right? So there's action behind that. And so it's just like if you told your child, I expect you to clean your room, or I hope you'll clean your room. Which one has more meat, right? The one that says, I expect you to do it, right? So creating, living by a calendar. And Nate's going to talk a little bit more about this too, but the things you want to concentrate on are identify what are your big rocks. And if we were in person, we do a whole little demonstration of what the big rocks are. You can look it up on YouTube, but your big rocks are things like your family, right? Being home for dinner every night, if that's something that's important to you. If you go to church or you want to go to the gym, having date night. Those are all things that are big rocks in life. But also, to me, prospecting should be a big rock. That's something that should be done consistently every day, at least 1 hour a day. If you're new, 3 hours a day. So having consistency in that. So it needs to be put in. And figure out when's your best time of the day. When are you at your peak to make those calls and to get focused on your business? Personally, I like to get prospecting done first thing in the day, just so then I know it's done. And if my day blows up, then I know I've still gotten my prospecting done. So you got to identify what the big rocks are first. These are your non-negotiables, right? These are things that we're not going to waver on. They are critical. They're vital. They have to get done either every day or every week. And then you want to live your calendar. So put it in pencil for a week or two, live it. I have found that most agents I coach, they don't realize how much time something takes. As simple as driving to the office. They think it takes 5 or 10 minutes. It might take 20. And so I found that that's where people have a challenge that they have to rework the intentional week, is to really figure out how much time activities take. And then after you get it penciled in, put it in your calendar, you can create a Google overlay, you can print it out. Nate's going to share what he did with his, how to have success with that, but have it everywhere. Share it with your assistant, share it with your family. Children are the best accountability partners when it comes to things like this, because if you promise them you're going to take them to the park on Saturday, they are going to be on you about doing that. And so, we have, again, in the journal, we have a sample for you there that you can actually go in and create that for yourself. But Nate, you want to talk about how the intentional week, we've known about this concept for a long time, but it took you years to implement it. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there's steps that you go through in your life. I could tell you, I always try to put my children first as they were growing up. Even like if I had to be out of town, I remember back in high school when my daughter was in high school, she had a performance. Well, I knew I was going to be out of town for the performance, so I went to the dry run, the practice that they did. Rehearsal. There you go. And so I went to the rehearsal and sat in the audience to watch her. When my son played baseball, when he was playing travel ball, 150 games in a year in the hot Arizona sun, or somewhere in the United States, because we would travel to games. Those were big rocks, family rocks, that were very important, that I can look back on and see that I was present in those times. So you want to make sure you're present for your children and your family. But Verl Workman, who was my coach for many years, kind of helped me really implement a few things. And we're going to share a few of those things as well as we talk. But one of the things was the perfect week, or the intentional week, as we call it. This is what was a game changer for me. So I was kind of a guy for 30 years or so that was working as much as I could. Okay. Today, my work week is really simple. I usually work Monday through Thursday. Friday, I golf. Saturday and Sunday, I have off. I don't take appointments, and it's all blocked out. All my listing appointments start at 3:00, and I'm done by 6. And when I say I'm done by 6, I don't go into any appointment after 5:00 because I want to be done by 6. So I'm very focused. So if you called me with a referral for a listing and I called the client, I would probably I would find out, can you meet on Monday at 3:00? Monday's not available. We're available Tuesday. Okay, would 3:00 work for you? They say no, 4. We can meet at 4. It's okay, great, right? If they wanted to meet at 9 in the morning, I can't be there. I have commitments. My intentional week is blocked out. And so I just let them know I have an appointment, and we work until we can find something that fits in that window. Now, there's going to be a few times somebody's in from out of town. I'm going to have to meet them on a Saturday or what have you, or I'm going to have to be outside that block. But I'm going to do everything in my power to block out that time, because by blocking out that time, it allows me to get other things accomplished. Once I start compromising my schedule, then it's real easy to take out very important things out of your schedule, like prospecting.
Or date night.
Or date night, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So one thing that what you did is you put it in your calendar, right? You put it in Google. And so it became like that little nagging voice that sat on your shoulder and said, Nate, don't schedule anything at that time. You said you were going to be at home for dinner, and you shared it with your assistant, and both of your assistants know that. So everyone has the two most important, besides Tanya, the other two most important women in his life, they both have access to that calendar, and they know don't schedule anything after this. And it's all blocked out. And do you use colors too, correct?
Well, no, what I did with the online, I do have color calendar, but really I just created a perfect week calendar that basically was an overlay in Google. So I blocked everything out, and they were in a really light yellow. So when I turn that calendar on, it overlays my calendar. Pretty much in my mind today, I know my week. It's very regimented. And, the best part is Friday, because I know I'm going to get up and I'm going to go play golf. And so just having those things in your calendar. Right now, our daughter, who's 13, plays on a competitive ice hockey team that has practice anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week, 1 hour drive away from our house.
Thanks.
And then come September, she'll be traveling outside the state to play. So again, big rocks, and we're building we're building a team between Tanya and I and another young lady, her parents, on be able to kind of all help each other out and trying to cart these girls around the valley to play ice hockey. So you have to have your priorities right, and you have to build this wall, right? You have to build this wall, because real estate will consume you. It'll consume you 7 days a week, pretty much 24/7, because you're thinking about it when you go to sleep, you're thinking about it when you wake up. So you got to really train yourself to protect the life, right? We don't work. We don't live to work, right? We work to live, and we want to make sure we get that right.
There's a sample. You guys are going to get a QR code here and a couple of slides that'll have some downloads that you guys can access. So yeah, we do have some samples of that in the chat. There was a question about the perfect week. So intentional week. So yeah, I think that the key thing is to work it and to have faith that if you are positioning yourself in your market, that you are of value and you're in demand, people will move their schedule around to meet with you. And, again, it's intentional. There will be times when you have to deviate from it. But when you can start, as Nate said, protecting your time, if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And most of the time, that's the people that we care about. And so just make sure that you're clear. And if, most agents come to work and they get focused on what we call fake work, right? Or things that are minutia, and then they think they've worked the whole day, but they really haven't. And so thinking about where you can outsource some of those things in your life. If you've got $10 or $20 hour activities that you're doing, could those things be outsourced? As simple as, having food delivery or laundry services or a housekeeper or landscapers, things like that can be outsourced, because that's not the highest and best use of your time. I don't know if he's on here, but I have a client of mine that I finally made him get a housekeeper and a laundry service. And he got on a call with me and he said, I risked my marriage for you. But now his wife's super happy because they come home to a clean house and they come home to laundry being done, and they don't have to worry about that. So think about those areas in your life where you can delegate when you're thinking about your perfect week.
Yeah, I pretty much have delegated everything.
Yeah,
I would delegate this call. But I didn't need to be here.
You're kind of important to the webinar, though, unfortunately. All right, let's move on to the next step here. So we're going to go on to step 4. But before we do that, Nate's going to tell you a story about his number one top 50 person in his database. So
Yeah, so I received a call. Well, one of my teammates received a call over 25 years ago. It was a sign call. And this person called in, and, like you do when you get a sign call, you get the information and you set up the showing and find out, well, they didn't like that house. So, my buyer's agents end up selling this particular person their first house in Phoenix. They'd moved from Florida. About a year or two later, they decided to move. I went and listed the house. I ended up selling them a house in Scottsdale that was 3 times the price of the home that they had bought and sold. The wife was not happy with the house, and so we bought a house that was, we went from $1 million to $2.5 million on the next one, the third one. And then the market was starting to crash, so they bought another house, and unfortunately we sold the other house in a short sale. And long story short, there's been 25 homes that have been sold. Now this chart needs to get updated, but there's been about 25 homes that have been sold through this person. A majority of them was through that person, one after another, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. And then his sphere of influence, right? His brother's a client, his nephew's a client, his son's a client, his employees are clients, and then his racquetball buddy is a client. The list just goes on. And this is just one client. So what you want to understand, what's a client worth in your lifetime? And you need to treat people, you just don't close on a transaction, you end a relationship. That's a beginning of a relationship. And some of these great individuals, now, over the course of the 36 years, we've helped over 6,000 families or transactions, if you will. And it's hard to keep track with everybody. But what's very interesting is when you take care of people and you stay in contact with them, they're going to give you referrals and they're going to come back and play. It's not uncommon. I'm working with an older client right now. They purchased their house from me 25 years ago. When I listed their house, when I sold them another house, we're in escrow on now. They reminded me that their kids bought houses from me.
Wow.
And I really didn't have an ongoing monthly, annual communication with these people, but I did communicate to them in our newsletter, and we've had a very simple newsletter. So what you do matters, right? You have to stay in touch. It's better to be in touch on the phone or in person, but you need to have your name going to them over and over again. And what's phenomenal, there was no listing presentation. It was like, hey, Nate, come on over. What's it worth? Okay, let's list it, right? There was no commission struggle at all, right? They wanted our service that they, got 25 years ago, and then their children kind of sprinkled in between. So making sure that you take care of your clients, making sure that you ask for referrals. I was never one to really ask for referrals. I just expected them. And in this case here with this particular gentleman, the business kept coming. And it kind of says, it shows their 18 sales, just under $12 million in volume and over $300,000 in commissions. I imagine that number's over 400.
You just today listed another property for him this week, didn't you?
Yeah, went on the market yesterday.
Yeah.
So bottom line is this, clients, look at them. Their value is more than that one commission, and their friendship is worth more than the money.
Absolutely. So that's a great story. And I love that we were able to track this and, figure out how many, and we're not even sure if this is complete.
No, it doesn't go with all the people that he referred that I couldn't remember that day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's going to lead us into a concept that is called identifying your top 50 in your database. And so top 50 is 50 people who are raving fans, right? And these are people who know you, like you, trust you. They're going to do business with you, and they're not going to let anyone they know or care about do business with anyone but you. And so Verl Workman actually wrote a book called the 8651 book. If you're a client of his, you guys have probably heard of that. But it was a story about a guy named Mike Parker, correct? Parker, yeah. That started out as a new agent way before there was online leads to be purchased, and he came up with a list of 50 people who, again, knew him, liked him, trusted him, and he started loving on them 1 hour a day. And the result was 86 transactions. And so we think about, it's not 25, it's not 75, it's 50 people, because 50 is manageable. 50, you can do 50 pop-bys in a weekend. It takes a lot of effort, but you can do it. And so it's manageable. And if you just expected one referral from each of the people in your top 50, for most of us, that's plenty of business that we need, right? And then if you've got people in your teams, they have 50 people as well, and that starts to grow. And we're going to go over a little bit more of how to love on those top 50 people. But there's literally every single month there's something happening, except for I think August is the only month that there isn't a national holiday that you could love on them in some way.
It's my son's birthday.
It's your son's birthday. So there's probably a National Nate Day, so you could celebrate that. So figuring out what those touches are. And in the book in chapter 8, we wrote about a bunch of different ideas and things that are very cost effective. They don't have to be crazy expensive. I just did the Cinco de Mayo and sent out, it was 50 cents for a taco packet, right? And sent those out to my people and got really great feedback from that. So finding ways that you can love on them. The average person will know 5 people who will make a move in the next 12 months. And so I want to be the person that those people are thinking of, right? When they hear that, I want to be top of mind. And you think about the home transcends a lot of areas. And so if I'm loving on my top 50 and I find out that, they're going to Greece this summer, well, can I drop them a book with some ways to navigate Greece, right? That's taking that and squeezing the orange and deepening that relationship and showing that you're listening and that you care. And so, same thing if they need an insurance agent because their kid just turned 16 and is getting a driver's license. Like, I want to know everything that's going on in their life and be a part of that. So start identifying, and they can be past clients. They can be people, you have a top 50 that actually isn't a past client. She's an agent with a license, but not an active agent.
Right. I also have one that's licensed.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, top 50 is just somebody that will possibly give you at least one referral a year.
Mm-hmm.
You've never had to transact with them. It could even be your doctor that already has a realtor.
Yep.
But he may have some clients on the side of town you work on versus the side of town they might live in.
Yes, you want to track it. So have it in your CRM, have a spreadsheet, and then track your touches and track the interaction, track the referrals that you get from them. And at the end of the year, if you haven't gotten any referrals, then it's a conversation of what can I do differently to get your referrals, or maybe they are not on your cool kid list anymore because it's organic. It's designed to change from year to year.
Sarah, I want to add to that.
Sure.
So with my CRM, I'm able to either send voicemails out or videos out or texts right out of the software. So couple things I wanted to do this year was to try to get more client interaction, top 50 interaction. So I like music, and I started to look for concerts that are coming to town in the near future where I can buy a suite. So if you like her or not, but she's a longtime icon. We have Madonna coming in September, so I bought a suite. And Aerosmith is doing their final tour. So I bought a suite for that as well. So what I want to do is I want the people that love Madonna to go to the Madonna concert. The people that love Aerosmith go to the Aerosmith concert. How do you find that out? So last month I just texted my top 50 and said, hey, I love music. Maybe we can go to a concert. Who's your favorite artist? And so I started collecting people's favorite artists and putting those into the database. And so when I invite people to the right venue, because some people hate Aerosmith, right? Some people hate Madonna, right? So there's different types of concerts. And one of the coolest things was the interaction that came back from that, right? And, you see on Facebook, what's your favorite album? Who's your favorite band? It's really interesting to learn more about your top 50 because that's where you invite them, right? And I think we're going to talk about events.
Yes, we are going to talk about events. Yep.
Okay. I'll come back and add some event stuff with the top 50.
Okay, what a great idea. And then put that in your CRM, right? So you know who their top bands are. I love that. What a great idea. On the screen, that QR code, that'll take you to our website where you can download some of the things that we've been talking about. There's the budget, the trackers, the BHAG, and the Wheel of Life, and whatever else is in there that's up there that you guys can scan that QR code and go check out those resources that we have for you. All right, so step 5, Lead gen like a badass. That's been my word lately, badass, right?
Get the badass book right there.
And I have the badass book right here. So lead gen like a badass. So you need to have a 12-month marketing plan. And so the little comment there is that you don't need leads, you need relationships. 49% of the leads that we buy and pay for as realtors never get a response from us, right? They raise their hand, right? They're a lead that we paid for. Nate calls that hopium. People buy leads hoping it's going to make them money. And 49% don't get a response back from an agent. And then, the other leads that if you are following up, the money, in those leads, when it's online leads, the money's not made until like the 5th to the 12th touch. And so for me personally, I would much rather work people that already know me, like me, and trust me instead of chasing a cold internet lead. So having a 12-month written plan needs to be.
Sarah, I was at a conference last night and the lady talked about relationships and she talks about currency and she says the new currency is relationships.
That's brilliant.
It's as we're sharing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that. I wrote that down. The new currency is relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So relationships, having those people in your database and then staying on top of them every single month with something. Nate touched on his newsletter. He's been doing his newsletter for 20 years. Something like that. So it's a newsletter that goes out. It's very customized. We have an in-house marketing guy and a local printer that goes out every single month like clockwork. And it's
old school.
It's old school with a stamp. Yeah, snail mail. But it has, it's got relevant information. He writes the article in the front, talks about the market, right? So it's very high touch, right? And it's, gets delivered every single month. And then, we're going to talk about client events, but there's other touches. And so every single day, something's going out into his atmosphere that lets people know that he's in business, right? Whether that's through his database, print mail, direct mail, all those social media, there's something going out into the universe. And so you can't be a secret agent and stay home and expect to make money. So you need to have a 12-month written plan. And again, chapter 8, chocked full of ideas of different things that you guys can do from monthly touches. July's National Ice Cream Month. So I got a couple of my coaching clients that are doing a ice cream social. So there's a lot of different things that you can do every single month. And we're going to talk about client events too in a couple slides, but making sure that you document and to me, this needs to be done in October for the following year. Because if you wait to January to figure out what you're going to do for your marketing plan, the first quarter is going to be done and nothing's going to go out into your database. Okay. So it needs to be done in October so you can plan ahead, you can budget, you can negotiate, whatever those things look like. You can purchase the things you need and plan ahead. Because if you wait till the last minute or you wait till that month, it's already over. Okay. So it needs to be done in advance. And I say by October.
One of the interesting things about, what we shared in the book was we're not really sharing stuff that you have to break the bank, right? A lot of this stuff is easy. It's just, depends on how you leverage it. I talk about concerts, I talk about suites. You don't need to do that. Small events. We just had an agent tell me yesterday she had a small event at her house the other day and she had 2 leads out of it, right? Just for having some of her clients over. So it's so refreshing to hear people using these systems and it doesn't have to break the bank, so to speak.
No, if you're out and about and you drive by one of your people's place of work, stop by a Starbucks and buy them a cup of coffee and drop it off at their work. That's something simple, right? Never eat alone. If you're going to go out to eat, invite one of your clients to go. I'm a big fan. So yeah, I just bought a new car and I had my Remax shirt on when I went to the dealership and there's 2 guys standing there chit-chatting about real estate. And he points at me, he goes, "Hey, let's ask her. She's the realtor." And it was all because I had my Remax shirt on. And so he said, one of the guys said, "I know a bunch of realtors." And I said, "Well, that's okay. You don't know me." And I handed him my card. So you never know when you're going to have those conversations. So I'm a big fan of swag, making sure that when you leave the house, people know that, hey, I'm in real estate, because you just never know. You could be at the grocery store and meet your next potential buyer or seller. So making sure that you are marketing yourself as well. All right, so this is an example up here on the slide of one of a guy that Nate coached that shows his touches, and I don't remember, it was like 700 touches or something like that a year that goes out. So this is pretty detailed and what they do every single month and every quarter. And I think there's another example of that too. So just a kind of, I don't know how well you guys can see that. If it's teeny tiny, it's tiny on my screen, but just getting into that. And we're going to talk about client events. And this is where he's talking about his client events. And we're talking about that here in a couple of slides. So just you got anything you want to add? Because you coached this guy.
Yeah, no, very, very detailed person. And bottom line is that he has a plan for every single week, for that matter, of what's going to happen. he has it broken down here monthly on the different touches. This is something he also uses in a listing appointment to show his clients how many people
How many
he's
touches?
touching, and so from open houses to events to direct mail, it's all here, and it's pretty impressive to look at.
Yeah.
So we challenge you to take an idea like this and put it in action, because action is the key. There's one thing I know about real estate: the people that take action are the ones that do the business.
And it can be messy, right? It could be messy action, but as long as you're taking action, messy action's better than no action, right?
Well, I built my early career just doing open houses, right? That's all I did, right? And then I just do that. I was good at it, and I did it every Sunday. And you build a database, you build a following, you follow up. You can build a massive business.
I know it's not on our slides, but talk a little bit about what you do with direct mail, because you started out doing those teal postcards, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
So at a CRS conference, I learned to mail out postcards, and then I had to figure it out. You got to think about this. This was in the day before you do full color type printing, and to do what was called spot color was a big deal. So if you were printing a postcard in black and white, you can do 2-color prints, or we would do I'll just use 2 colors as an example, red and blue. So the dominant card, they were half the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, right? And so the top card would be dominant blue with highlights of red. The second card, which would be for the next month, would be dominant red and highlight blue. And so I was able to get 2-color printing and get it done for less money. So it would go out, and we started out sending out 500, then we started sending out 5,000, and I'm a guy that as money would come in, I would figure out how do you expand the net, get a bigger net, right? Because if you're just farming 100 homes, on average, only 7 people of those 100 homes are going to move in a given year. And if you do any type of prospecting or farming, if you will, make it a year or 2-year commitment, right? Most people will stop after 2 or 3 months. They just didn't do it long enough. Right?
12 to 18 month commitment.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, Sarah. If I'm thinking right, I'm thinking I've been doing direct mail for 30 years now, and have not stopped.
Yeah, you still do it today.
Still do it today.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, right? And so you have to, and it's a long game. So you're not don't start a farm if you're not going to commit to it. So 12 to 18 months. Some people say even 24 months that you need to budget for. That you may not make any money, but it's okay, right? And you're, again, it's not okay. It's not okay, but it will come if you keep the consistency of it. The messaging's good. It will come. I got kind of lucky. I have 2 months in on a new farm I'm doing. I got a listing appointment, so I feel pretty blessed that happened so quickly. So we can talk more. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the book about direct mail and some numbers in there. Some examples, real examples that Nate has experienced in his market of, we give you the example of the cost and then what was the ROI. And anytime you spend money on something, you want to have a 3 to 4 times the ROI. So if it's $1,000, you want to make 3 to 4,000. So that's really important to be tracking that, which is going to lead to our next slide.
Before we go on, Sarah, just if anybody has questions, put them in the chat.
Yeah, put them in the chat.
We're talking about, and as we switch from one point to another, we'll stop and answer any questions that come up.
Yep. So tracking. So you're a big proponent of tracking as well. So you remember when you wanted to start golfing more and Howard said to you, well, how do you know if you're going to golf more if you don't track it? Right. So now you golf every Friday. So if we want to improve things, and I'm sure all of us have been on a diet at some point, right? And what's the thing they have you do? Track your calories, track your steps, track how much water you're drinking, all of that. So it's the same thing in our business. And so winnowing it down and knowing I need to go on X number of listings every week or X number of buyer appointments every week. You have a former buyer agent that still to this day, 2 appointments every week. That's his business plan. We get 2 appointments every week.
2
face-to-face. And he actually shared with us recently that he's made as much money as he made the whole year this year and by the end of Q2, which is pretty exciting. So just consistency in that. So tracking it and knowing who are the people I'm going on, how many appointments did I go on? Did I get the appointment? If I didn't, why not? Right? How many contracts are you writing? How many listing appointments are you taking? How many of your listings do they sell? Because those all become bragging points. So if you're a buyer's agent and you are able to negotiate X percentage off of every contract that you write, that puts you in demand. And I want to brag about that so that other buyers know that, hey, I can get the job done better than the competition. Same thing with your listings. If your listings sell, 101%, list price to sales price, that's a bragging point, right? Because sellers want to work with an agent who can get the job done. And so, back in the day, we used to have these, we called them barf bags, but they were bags that had Nate's picture on them. And it said the Nate Martinez team lists or sells a house every 23 days. And we had a system
23 hours.
23 hours. Sorry, 23 hours. So how did I screw that up? So we had a system that on we would deliver a pre-listing package to every listing that we went on with all of our stuff in it, and it showed up on that bag. And at the time, the average days on market was about 64 days to sell a home. So when you can say that you're selling a house every 23 hours, that's a game changer. And that puts you in a completely different light with the seller. But the only way we knew that was because we tracked it, right? We tracked everything. So you want to track your incoming leads, your appointments, your closings, your negotiation skills. Okay.
I want to add to that. So again, as I said, when I was coaching with Burl, early on, we were good at tracking. We had this conversation before we started. We were good at tracking, but we only tracked success, meaning that when we had a closing, we always, where did that person come from? We make sure that we would tag that commission dollar to that marketing, that brought the person in. What we never checked was all the deals that might have fallen through the cracks, right? So, and it was hard. Trust me, it was hard to track every lead, every call off a sign, every internet lead, every open house lead that came through, and putting them into a system. What was really interesting, that's when you start to master the game of real estate. When you can really start to project or predict what will happen with your business. Give you an example. This was probably 5 years ago. I was still doing some Zillow advertising. Over the years, we kept ratcheting it up. We're spending about $2,500 a month on Zillow leads, my Hopian leads, right? And then we got a new CRM called Boomtown. And Boomtown had a pay-per-click option on there to advertise, to bring leads in. So we were spending $2,500. And we were tracking every lead that came in from January till about October. Again, spending $2,500 on each of those. At the time, Zillow I had sold like 10 houses, where in Boomtown, let's say it was 1 or 2 for the same dollar spend. So the quality of the leads that I was spending money on, and my son comes to me and he's going, Dad, he goes, why are we spending money on Boomtown? Let's just double down on Zillow because we're getting twice as much. So we did that, right? But you would never know what your conversion rate is if you're not taking the leads, following up with the leads, and then recording where those leads came from. So when you track your lead in the beginning, you can pivot, if you will, right? So open houses on my team. It's funny, as inventory got scarce, people on the team would be like fighting to get that. I want to do that open house, right? So, that's pretty much what powers our team today is open houses and past clients.
You want to tell the Diamondback story?
Yeah, here's one for tracking. So when the Diamondbacks came to town, they had a 8.5 by 11 program. So everybody that would walk into the stadium would get one of these programs. So I thought, I had worked with a couple of professional ball players at the time, and I thought, I'm going to do a full page ad in this publication. I got to understand one thing. I was up in the nosebleeds of the stadium, and by buying this ad, I can get. We were able to buy tickets, not given, but buy tickets on top of the subscription to sit literally behind home plate, but about 15 rows back. The first year, we tracked $0 to it, right? I didn't really do a good job of tracking where the leads came from because I know we got leads, but I never had a closing due to that. Now, again, there's people that knew me, saw the ad, it was good reinforcement. So I couldn't track anything to it. So what do? You do it again, right? But and again, that next year I found myself, what I found was I was running from one side of the valley to the other, but I had to prove the concept. So I was going to listing appointments, 40 miles away, never leaving town, but just 40 miles away. And when you're listing in areas that you don't know much about, or there's a better competitor or better competitors in those neighborhoods, I wasn't really getting, the return I wanted. The best thing about it, though, was the Diamondbacks won the World Series that year, and I had seats in my family behind home plate. So
So that was the win.
that was a win, yeah. But I couldn't track any real estate transactions to it.
I think one thing too that we wrote about is we were not prepared. We didn't have a system to handle the type of leads we were going to get in, right? That we were getting stuff in, Fountain Hills and Mesa and, really far from our home base. And so we weren't prepared to get that type of influx. And so a lot of things we learned running that ad, right?
Yeah,
and things that we could do differently. So tracking, so the only way you're going to know, and it's okay to have a Diamondback type experience, but the way to know is you got to track everything. So tracking all your incoming leads and everything, all of your appointments and pretty much everything in your life you want to track in your business. All right, so let's, so this is in the downloads, here's just a really simple, basic way to track. So week 1, how many appointments did you go on? Did you get face-to-face? How many appointments or listings, conversion rate, your sold, and your average GCI? Your conversion rate is also important. If you get a 95% conversion rate, you're not going on enough appointments.
Well, it depends
Right.
on what it is too, right?
Well, you're going probably only family and friends,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly
So
it.
the average is about 65%. And I know a coach that actually wants his percentage to go down because that means he's going on more appointments with people that don't know him and he's getting face to face with more people. So you want to know what your conversion rate is as well. And if you have a team, you definitely need to be paying attention for conversion rates. I've got a gal I coach that their website's generated over 600 leads so far this year, and they've only closed, they've spent 15 grand and they've only made 26,000 GCI. So we're off, and it's because
Well, yeah, and I would tell you that team leader lost money on that.
absolutely she's
Because
lost
after
money.
the split,
Yeah.
there was no money.
There's no money.
But the key is conversion. So like if you are buying online leads, which I hate, I did say that out loud, didn't I? The online leads, you're probably 1 to 3% if you're super good at online lead conversion. So you get 100 leads, you're going to probably close 1 to 3 people, right? But Nick Bailey said at a conference last year, who's the president of Remax, that there were 8 million leads sold. There's 80 million.
80 million.
80 million leads sold last year.
And only what, 5
Yet
points?
there was only a little over 5 million homes sold. So what does that tell you? I mean, everybody and their brother is selling you leads. I mean, it's not uncommon to get 3 to 4 texts a day
Oh yeah.
on my phone, people trying to get me to sign up for leads. Hey, one thing, just a public service announcement on these referral partners out there, be careful what you sign. There are some referral partners that lead is for life. So if they buy a house 6 months from now with you, they sell the house 2 years from now, trust me, they are going after those commissions. We had one agent that left our office that was working a pretty big account. Now he left like 7 years ago, but that company now they haven't really subpoenaed us, but they've asked for all his closing records of every house that he sold when he was with us, and they want their piece.
Oof, that's scary.
So
Read the fine print.
Yeah, read the fine print. Just don't sign something, to sign it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of scary.
Mhm.
All right, so let's talk about raving fans. And so NAR a couple years ago came out with a study that said that the best way to lead gen for new business was to host client events. And so to host 6 to 8 clients events a year. And I know for some of you, if this is a new concept, you're like, whoa, 6 to 8, that's a lot. Start with one. Just start with one, plan it, do it. The gal Nate mentioned earlier, that's her second client event she's done. Her first one she did at Christmas, and it was wildly successful. She had 50 people show up for her first client event, which was huge. I don't have anyone I coach that when they do a client event that they don't get business from it, either on that day or directly after. Business comes from it. So a real simple concept here of how do you get to 6 to 8 is if you did quarterly happy hours, right? Do a birthday happy hour. If you had a birthday in that quarter, come join us for happy hour. So that's 4 touches. If you did a client event, a big, like a holiday party, that's, if you had an annual holiday event, you could do pie giveaways. So there's a lot of ways you can get to that 6 to 8. If there are things that are happening, like Nate mentioned, the concerts, are there things that happen in your area? Some of you, have summer festivals and things that happen that are seasonal events in your community. Buy tickets to go to that. Find ways to connect with them. And the concept with client events is that you bring everybody top 50 all together at once. So you're seeing eyeballs all at the same time. And so you interact with them, and then they interact with people within your database as well. So you get something.
Yeah, I would say even if you don't do a client event, you should do at least four to six a year. But you can create your own mini events and ways to force you to call people. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a sporting venue in town, be it basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever it might be. And you can always get tickets. Trust me, you can get tickets to any game, any day, day of. Could be concerts as well. But you can literally start just calling your database and say, hey, I got 2 tickets to the Coyotes tonight. Can you use them? What you're going to find if you're calling day of, most people cannot, but they're going to thank you so much for thinking about them. If you find somebody that says yes, you just call down to the box office and buy 2 tickets and leave them there for them to pick up. If nobody takes you up on it,
you're out nothing but time making calls.
Right, and that's what we want you to do is communicate with your database.
Yeah, so and they're grateful even if they can't make it, and you can squeeze the orange, buy 4 tickets, and you go with them.
Right, yeah, I love to go with them.
Go with them because now I'm spending time with them. So movie events are one of my favorites because they're super easy to pull off. You did that a couple years ago. You did 2 different ones, right? You did Toy Story and the Queen.
So it's been a while, right?
I guess it's been a couple years.
But 2 different audiences, right? So the Toy Story, whenever you do a kid event, can you plus it? Can you possibly do a toy drive or whatever, a food drive, so people bring something to the theater? And we did that with the Toy Story. We raised a bunch of awareness and took a bunch of toys down to the Phoenix Children's Hospital. Now for the adult movie we had, now don't let your mind go there, but for the adult movie we had Queen, and so we rented out a theater that also had a bar. So everybody that was coming to our movie theater, they would get a wristband and they could go have a couple cocktails. So we turned it into a happy hour before the concert, if you will. It was really a movie. And then we also told people, like, hey, if you want to dress up like you're going to go see Queen in 1977, go ahead and do it. And we had people that did, and it was fun, so.
And that you didn't market that at all. So you filled the theater solely by making calls to your top 50.
Yeah,
that's it.
50,
yeah. So no marketing on that one. Movie ones are good. One little tip on movies.
We did market it. We did put in the newsletter afterwards, and what a great time we had.
Okay. So one tip I'll give you is if you're going to do a movie, make sure you do it on opening weekend because people won't wait. If it's a big, Pixar or, Marvel or something like that. And I can't see it on the slide, but there was one of Nate's coaching clients, they did the Jurassic Park and they used the props at the movie theater to take pictures. And we had a gal in our office did, I think it was Superman. It was one of those movies that came out before COVID. And she actually rented a couple guys to come dress up like the characters. And then her clients were able to take pictures with them. Then she printed the pictures out and sent them out. So, client events have multiple touches. You have the invitation to save the date. You have whether or not they RSVP. Then if they come to the event, and then you have the follow-up afterwards. So there's multiple touches. And even if they don't come, you're still touching them and the wow factor is still there. So a lot of meat to that. And again, there's ways to do it that's inexpensive. And then of course you can go lavish if you want to too. So it just depends on what your budget looks like. All right, let's move on to step 8, and we're wrapping up here. So thanks for hanging in there with us, and I hope you guys are getting a lot of good content out of this. So step 8 is accountability equals love. And so you want to talk about Howard Brinton and your experience with Howard?
Yeah, so Howard was the first real estate speaker I ever met, and I remember GRI classes. I wanted to go to the GRI class, and before that I wanted to go to the Tommy Hopkins class. And I went to my broker and I showed him, I go, look, there's this guy Tommy Hopkins, he teaches people how to sell real estate. And I didn't have money back then, right? And I asked him, I said, well, you pay the $295 for the class, I'll sit in the front row, take notes, and I'll make us some money. And by the time he got done laughing at me, I knew that my education is going to be up to me and not asking my broker. So later on, through our association, I saw something about GRI, Graduate Realtor Institute, and it was happening down in Tucson, which is about 125 miles from here. And quite interesting, at that time in my life, I had never stayed in a hotel outside of Phoenix by myself. So kind of weird, right? So I went down to Tucson. I was pouring concrete on a concrete crew. We were building high-rise buildings here in Phoenix. To get on that crew was like epic, right? To be on Mel's crew was rare, to be one of the few laborers that could be there. So what happened is I had to go ask my foreman for a week off because those GRI classes were 4 or 5 days long. And again, it's out of town. So he gave me the blessing and told me, if you can get out of construction, then you can go forward in real estate. He goes, all power to you. So I go down, and the first speaker I ever meet is Howard Brinton. I absolutely fell in love with that man the first day I met him. And that's hard for me to say, never having a father, never having a man ever tell me that they loved me. He did. He told us all. He treated everybody like we were special. His accountability over the years, right? He would always call me and ask me questions, but I followed him through his career. And he started a company called Star Power, and then I was lucky enough to be one of his stars, if you will, got interviewed. But, Sarah kind of alluded to it earlier. When he was coaching me, he was my first coach too. So I was paying him $2,500 a month, probably. God, what was that? That was
20 years ago.
20 years ago. So that's a lot of money. But anyway, so to coach me to get to another level. And we were talking about things in life, which you wanted. And like I said, Sarah alluded to it. One of the things I want to do is play more golf. And Howard said, well, how much golf did you play last year? And I go, I don't know. He goes, well, how are you going to know if you play more? That's how simple his dialogue was, right? And so, we set the goal to do 52 goals. And in my journal every week, I'd always check off. I had a running total of how many days I played in that first year. Again, by setting a goal, writing it down, keeping yourself accountable to it, we played more than 52 rounds of golf. So, having somebody to keep you accountable or keeping yourself accountable. What I find, unfortunately, in real estate, people don't like to be held accountable, right? They don't like it. So really what we try to teach is you need to keep yourself accountable to what your goals, what you want to do, right? You can see great people that do great things in accountability, and their business grows, their waistline shrinks, whatever their goals are, you can see it happen over time. So if there's anything that Sarah and I can do to help keep you accountable, and if you need to reach out to us and ask us some questions, feel free to do so. My email is natem@remax.net.
sbliss@remax.net.
So just, we're here for you. And anything else, Sarah, about accountability you want to share?
Yeah, accountability means, you care about people. So, and I actually like the word awareness, right? Instead of accountability, just to be aware. Because if I have awareness of what I'm doing or not doing, when I say I'm supposed to do something, kind of it's a little bit better, right? It feels a little bit better to have someone be aware. But, Napoleon Hill came up with masterminds back in 1925 and accountability partners. And, think about some of the things we have, innovations that we have in our world today wouldn't have happened if those men hadn't come together and pushed each other to become better versions of themselves and to contribute better into the world. So just really powerful. So you got to have somebody that you trust and somebody that's going to actually hold you to it, right? And not just pat you on the head and say, that's okay, Nate, you're having a bad day today, but really push you to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and if you can find people to call you on your own BS, call you out on that, that's great. Shameless plug, but as we were writing the book, we thought we need a journal, right? We need a real estate journal. So as Sarah said, in the beginning of the journal, it's really hard, where you think about, but we basically have a daily journal that if you sit down every single day and plan your day out. When I do this, I don't always do it every day. Something comes up, but when I take the time in the morning to sit down and journal, the day just goes better. It's more relaxed. It's, you're almost like it's all planned, right? You don't have chaos hitting you. And, a couple good books that kind of inspired was Hal Elrod's book,
The Miracle Morning.
The Miracle Morning, and his savers that he talks about. Hal Elrod, he's just a genius on that. So, we kind of have some of that incorporated. Everything that we have, there's very few original thoughts we have. It's either come from people in Star Power, people at Workman Success, different people that I've met across this great country of ours, and just learning. So be always learning and always be in action.
Absolutely. So just to recap, so step one is you want to get clear on your vision, know what it is that you want to accomplish in your life and in your business. And, if it's sometimes, again, we get one dimensional, but, we've got an agent in our office that wants to help pay for clean water in foreign countries. And I think that's just such a wonderful goal, right? We know I don't know if they're still doing it, but they help build houses in third world countries. You know, it's like $5,000 a house to build, right? So a portion of every commission gets donated to that. When you share those visions with people in your life and you're going to listing appointments or buying appointments, people will champion that, right? They'll get behind that and they'll help you, okay? And then have a business plan and a working budget or your spending plan. Step 3 is to create your intentional week. So identify your big rocks, plug them in your calendar, have that Google Calendar, whatever calendar you're using, because again, it becomes that nagging voice that tells you, don't schedule something there. You said you were going to be home for dinner. And then step 4 is identifying your top 50. So again, not 25, not 75, but 50 people who are raving fans that you can love on 1 hour a day, every single day, 1 hour a day, right? Just love on those people and ask for referrals. And then step 5 is to lead gen like a badass with a written, you change the slide to say a written 12-month marketing plan. And then step 6 is track everything in your business, track your ROI, track your appointments, track everything that you're doing. And then step 7 is to create raving fans by hosting client events throughout the year. And then step 8, find yourself a mentor or a mastermind group, hire a coach. Both Nate and I are master coaches for Workman Success, and never, Nate, when he said to his old broker about sitting in the front row and he'll come back and make him a lot of money, still to this day, he sits in the front row, right? And so never stop investing in yourself because you are your own best asset. And, you are, a gift to the industry. So keep making yourself a better version of yourself.
That's it. I think we wrapped it up. Thank you guys for your time today.
Any questions before we stop the stream? You guys got any questions you want to pop in the chat for us?
Everybody's shy.
Everybody's shy, I think. So again, Alex threw up our email addresses in there. We are more than happy to even come to your brokerage. If you're a broker owner and you want to have this presentation presented to your agents, we're happy to do that and arrange it and come see you or jump on Zoom and do a presentation. I think I have another slide with the book. There we go. There's a picture of the books, and I think Alex dropped the link too for the where you can get those on Amazon. All right. I don't think we have any questions, Nate.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys for being here.
All right, you guys. You are very welcome. Oh, well, hold on a second. We do have one question from. Yeah. So yes, great question. We are with Workman Success, Rural Workman. They're based out of Salt Lake. And then let's see. How do you do social media marketing? How do you do social media marketing, Nate?
Well, I mean, again, I'm a little bit older. I'm 63 years old. We like to be out there. So Reels is something that we're trying to engage in, but we post something every day.
Yeah, just some kind of content.
Content. We use different content creators, and we just have something going out. And a lot of it is, our activity of our new listings and solds and pendings. So we always have something.
Yeah, there's a great Facebook group called The Lighter Side of Real Estate, and they post some really comical stuff out there that's good just to have some sense of humor. I don't know what brand you're with, but if there's Photify that's out there. There's some different Facebook groups. There's different websites and things out there that you can get content and just, video, jumping on your video, doing a live or creating some video. That's a good one too. So I think the most important thing is that you stay present with your social media marketing. So it doesn't really matter what you're marketing, is that you're present and that every day somebody knows people know that you're in real estate.
Yeah, I would say that social media is probably our lowest form of return on business.
It's hard to track.
Yeah, but I do know I have one person I coach, and their buyer's agent in Houston is killing it on TikTok and Instagram, and doing videos 3 to 4 to 5 a day about walking through the life of a realtor, right, and helping a segment of the community. A very, very niched agent, bilingual, very focused on her community, and she's killing it. And so I'm very impressed. But our business is face to face. We really, really try to just love on the people that love on us.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, Craig. Definitely got to connect with you. We'd love to come to Chicago, the Windy City. So, all right. Well, if that's all we got for today, you guys, thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. And if there's anything we can do, please reach out.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
See ya. Have a good day.